In a city where the skyscrapers seemed determined to pierce the sky, there lived a man named Hale. He was 33, held a respectable job, followed a strict daily routine, and possessed a habit that everyone admired. He was always busy. To his colleagues, Evan was the man who never stopped. To his family, he was working hard for the future. Yet every morning, when he faced the mirror hanging in his bedroom, he saw only a man constantly in a hurry, as if time itself was chasing him down every corridor of his life. Evan believed productivity meant doing more in less time, so he forced himself to move faster, sleep less, take on more projects, and learn more skills. But the harder he pushed, the more he felt a strange emptiness building inside him, as though a small voice deep within was trying to whisper something, only to be drowned out by the relentless noise of work. One night, after 3 consecutive days of staying awake until dawn, Evan realized something was wrong. He was sitting at his desk, staring at his computer screen. The blinking cursor looked like a silent accusation. His mind was blank. His hands trembled slightly, and the text on the screen blurred. It wasn't exhaustion. It felt like he was becoming disconnected from himself. He stood up, grabbed his coat, and walked out into the night, hoping the cold air would steady him. The city at this hour was noisy in a peculiar way. The hum of traffic, the glow of billboards, the hurried steps of people who seemed to be running their own races. And amid all that noise, Evan noticed a small shop with warm yellow light. A wooden sign above the door read, "The Clockmaker for the Weary." He didn't know why, but he stepped inside. The shop was silent. So silent, he could hear the faint ticking of the clocks lining the walls. An elderly man with silver hair was polishing a wooden timepiece. Every movement was gentle, almost reverent, as if each clock held a soul of its own. The old man looked up at Evan and said something that froze him in place. "You look like someone running faster than his own heart." Evan forced a smile. "I'm just tired. Been working a lot. It's nothing serious." The old man set the clock down carefully. People who are too busy often say that. Evan had no response. Something in the old man's voice resonated deeper than he expected. The clockmaker walked to a shelf and retrieved an unusual piece. A clock with no numbers, no markings, just 2 hands over a blank white face. "This is the quiet clock," he said. "It doesn't measure time. It measures the space inside you." Evan let out a short laugh. "A clock that doesn't tell time? What's the point?" The old man spoke slowly, as though each word carried weight. People do not burn out because they lack time. They burn out because they lose the rhythm of their own life. The rhythm of life. The phrase struck Evan like a sudden gust of wind. The old man placed the clock into Evan's hands. "Take it. Put it where you work. Don't try to understand it. Just let it be." Before Evan could reject the gift, the old man turned away and resumed polishing the other clocks, ending the conversation as quietly as it had begun. That night, Evan placed the quiet clock on his desk. It didn't tick, it didn't move. It simply sat there, white and empty. Odd, yes, but he had deadlines to meet, so he paid it little attention. Days passed. One morning, while Evan was frantically typing a report, sunlight reflected off the clock's blank face. The glare forced him to pause for a moment. In that brief pause, he suddenly noticed his own breath, shallow and rushed. His shoulders were tight, his thoughts were scattered, and he had not realized any of it until that instant. The next day, it happened again. He was juggling 3 tasks at once when his eyes drifted toward the quiet clock. The stillness of that white surface felt like a hand gently pressing on his shoulder, reminding him to look inward. A week later, Evan found himself working less, but finishing more. He began monotasking instead of multitasking. He allowed himself a few silent pauses each day, and he started asking himself questions he had never dared to ask. Is this task truly important? Or is it just something that makes me look busy? He realized productivity hadn't improved when he ran faster. It improved when he stopped running long enough to see where he was going. One evening, after finishing his work earlier than usual, Evan walked back to the shop to return the clock, or at least thank the old man. But when he arrived, the store was gone. The sign was missing. The room inside was dark and empty, as though the shop had never existed. He stood there for a long while, staring into the void behind the doorway. The city around him was still loud, still rushing, still pulsing with urgency. Yet inside him, something had shifted. something had grown quiet. Evan looked down at the quiet clock in his hands. It still didn't tick. It still didn't move. But now he understood. It was never meant to measure minutes. It was meant to measure the silence people forget to give themselves. The space to think, to feel, to reconnect with what truly matters. He realized a truth he had avoided for years. Productivity isn't about doing more. Productivity is about placing your mind on what is truly essential and letting the rest fall away. Evan slipped the quiet clock into his backpack and walked through the glowing streets. But unlike before, he didn't rush. His steps were slow, steady. He could hear the sound of his own footsteps, a rhythm he had never noticed until now. A rhythm not dictated by time, but shaped by his own choice.